Welcome to the channel. The only channel that actually does stuff worthwhile. Okay, so today we're going to put some bearing races in a 4 to 9 inch pinion holder, and later we're going to set the preload tension of the bearings. But for now, we're going to put some new bearing races in this pinion holder. So you could just pound them in with a hammer, but that's not the way we're going to do it. We're going to weld this old race on here, and then we're going to turn it in the lathe a little bit, a couple thousandths off of there, so I can use it in the press to press the new races in. Now, yeah, you could just pound this in with a brass hammer, but that's really not how I want to do it. That's not what we do here. Okay, so welcome to the channel, and without further ado, time to get off my butt and do some welding. We'll let you know how that goes. Took a little longer than I thought. It's been a while since I machined on bearing races. It's not exactly what that little lathe over there is for, but here it is. Here's the tool. It should do nicely. Fits in there pretty snug, both ends, and that will allow me to press this new race in. Now, yeah, I could have just used a block of wood in the press, but it goes a little bit further than this lip, and to seat it really good, you got to have the right tool. So I'll put it in my press and I'll press it in. But that's it for tonight, because that took a lot of machining. So remember, this is the only channel that matters. Hey, welcome back to the channel. As promised, we're going to press in some races today, and first we're going to heat this up with a heat gun, and I have the races in our deep freezer on top of some frozen bread, but hey, that's how it's going to go. If you heat this up and you freeze the races a little bit, sometimes they just drop right in. We'll see. Maybe I won't even have to use the press. So here we go. Okay, it's warm. That's all we need. Okay, here's a nice cold race. Wipe it off with my shirt, because you know we're very professional around here. And it probably just won't drop right in, but it won't. That's okay. We were ready for you. When pressing things in the cast iron, you gotta be careful. I've had some issues before. You know, when the cast iron wasn't resting even, and I went to press the bearing in, and it broke the cast iron. So if this doesn't go in nicely, we'll heat it up some more, but I think it'll slip right in. So here we go. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that, coming right in there. Yeah, you can see it. Okay. Okay, it's binding a little. We're going to let it up a little. It's getting a little tight. Okay, it's coming along. Okay, what I noticed was that the top of my tool wasn't exactly straight cut off. So I put this impact socket on top of it and pressed it home. So good to check things and go slow, you know, just making sure. Isn't that a great sound? The sound of success. Okay, so here was the problem. This was a little off, and it was going in a little crooked, but we caught it in time. We put a socket on top, so it was nice and flat. It probably would have been better not to have this piece of the tool on here, but I made it from another tool that I still have to use, like that. It has set screws that holds it, so I kind of wanted to keep it on there. Anyway, that's the idea, and as you can see, this race is down about a fat 1/16 to an 1/8, and that's why you can't just pound it in with a hammer. You run the risk of chipping the race or chipping the casting. Nice to have a nice little tool that goes in there and finishes the job. Okay, so I'll get a video of the other one. Okay, let's take the bearing race out of the freezer. All these shop-approved methods, you know, Ford would approve. And we're going to wipe it off with my nice clean work shirt, because we're high class around here. Okay. Oh man, it started nicely. That's good. This time we're going to be smart and use our little top piece socket. And, okay. There's some issues here. This one's taller. This one's a little taller. Oh yeah, okay, we got it. I had to push the hydraulic ram jack up. Push it up a little bit. Yeah, this one's not starting right. I think we're actually going to have to tap that with a rubber hammer. Hang on. Yeah, better be safe. Yeah, finagle it a little bit. I just wasn't happy how that was going in. So here we go. And oh yeah, like butter. See, it always should be that easy. When you start hitting pressure on a 20-ton press, don't keep going. Stop, reposition the tool, see what's going on. Make sure there's not a burr in there. Make sure it's the right race. Yeah, because you put 20 tons on this little piece of cast iron, it's going to be all over. But you know what, just to make sure, looks like it's going in. We'll kind of reposition it a little bit. Feels like it's doing fine. Okay, and that's about it. Yeah. Alright, let's see what we got here. Nice and even, about a 1/16 of an inch down. And if you're looking this way, you see that it's flush with where it's supposed to go. Okay, so that is a Ford pinion holder for a 9-inch Ford rear end with brand new races in it. Wasn't that hard, you know, I didn't have to go totally hog wild on this tool, but you know, I'll paint it orange and mark it for 9-inch. It works for something else too here with set screws, so I might even put this in the lathe and make that a little flatter because that was an issue. Truer. Okay, so we got that, and we got pretty lucky. This is a tool I made a while back for a 1960 Ford outer race for the front drum, and you know, I kept it because it's a tool I made, and you never know, you might be able to use it the other way. Anyway, this is a pinion support bearing for a 9-inch Ford, and it looks like it's going to be fine. So that's the next thing we're going to do. We're going to press, this is the old bearing, we're going to press a new bearing, here it is, in there. And I think we're going to use the press also, maybe with a block of wood underneath here to support it, because you know, it's not good to use hammers on rear end. Hammers involved. I know you can't really see what's happening, but trust me, the bearing is going in nice and smooth. Like there's a block of wood underneath the bearing support, and we're about to hit it. It's going in. Ah, that's it. Okay. The sound of success. Thank you, little wheel bearing tool. And there it is. We got to put the keeper in now, and there's little notches in there. We're gonna. Okay, here's the next issue. This is a repair sleeve I already pressed on, but I'm thinking that it has to go down a little bit more because I'm worried about if this sharp edge touches the new seal once I preload it, it's all over. That seal will be bad. So I'm hoping I can use this piece of 1 7/8" muffler adapter and just press it down a wee bit more so that gap isn't so prevalent. And I'd rather have this in more because I remember where the wear marks were. They were like right about there. I'm just worried with the new bearings and the new preload that that will actually touch the lip of the seal. And we can't have that because that would be the end of that seal. Okay, as promised, no hammers. Don't get me wrong, hammers are good, but sometimes you gotta use a little finesse. And it's going down nicely. There it goes. Okay. And we don't want to go too much. Okay. See, that went down more. There's a little edge there, but I know for a fact that the seal actually rides about right there. So there's no way that edge is going to cut anything. In fact, it's flush with the holder in there now, the oil slinger protector. So it's a little far, but I know the wear edge is right about there. So I think we're okay. I got that bearing in, and yeah, the book just said to pop it in there. So I popped it in there and gave it a little tap. Hammers are good for something. Well, more issues, folks. I got to put these bearings on here, and they came off pretty well. The old one, you know, I just banged them off with a hammer and a chisel, but you know, that's not what we do here with new stuff. So here's the book. And the book says I need special tool T57L4614A. Get up there. And tool number T574621B. Yeah, you guys just send me those tools. I need that tool too, and I need this tool, and let's see, probably gonna need that bearing flange tool. Yeah, yeah, right. Okay, so what we're gonna do They say never to reuse a crush washer. There is the old crush washer on the right. There's the new one. You can see when it crushes, it gets smaller and more bulgy. So we are going to reuse this, but not as a crush washer. We're going to weld it onto here and use it as a press washer. So I'm breaking the rules here. I am going to reuse this crush washer, but it's not going in the rear end. And you know, I'll probably just spray paint that orange and put 4 9-inch on it and save it, because I got a couple of these rear ends to do, and when you have these tools ready to go, anyway, it's gonna go. You get the idea. This is the crush washer, but it's now going to be a press washer, and it's going to go on there and get pressed in. Do I have to weld it to this? Probably not, but you run the risk of this sharp edge of this square tubing messing up that surface. So I'm going to put it on this socket, which is machined for another purpose already, and I'm going to put it in there to keep it centered. I'm going to tack it in 4 spots, and then I'm going to make sure it doesn't hit the edge and gall. Might have to reach in there with a round file or something. We'll see. Yeah, we'll let you know how that works out. And I bought the special tools I needed. They said that this particular tool, T57L-4621B, was very expensive and not to break it. And this one was really hard to find also. So I'm really glad the nice guys at the Ford dealership had those parts for me. You know, wouldn't want to upset them and break their tools. Okay, so I hope this is the right way. It is. And you know what? We're going to have to lower the whole press to make this work. Those Ford guys didn't tell me that. I called the Ford dealership. They told me what to do. And it's looking pretty good. What's going on there? I'll probably have to raise the press up. Maybe it'll make it. Boy, I hope this is on the right way. It's working. You know what? Let's raise it up and see if we're galling the other bearing surface. And we're not. Okay. That's good. Good to check. You know, wouldn't want to be crunching stuff up. Gonna make an odd sound. Okay, it's getting tight for some reason. We're gonna reposition this a little. We don't want things to get super tight. All the way on, and I called the Ford dealership and they said that sound was normal. I think it was just getting down to the base of the metal part and the sound was changing. But my tool worked very well. There's the new bearing, no gap in there, right on there flush. It doesn't look like it galled the shaft at all, which is nice. Not that it would be a huge deal if there was a scratch in there, but the other bearing rides on there. The crush washer goes in between there. Now we can proceed, but I'm still going to use this for the other bearing, I think. I'm not quite sure. I think I do, and then I put the seal on. Okay, so here we go. Hey, here we go. Alright, we'll put some red Timken bearing grease on here. Some people use the actual gear oil. It's just going to filter in with the gear oil once it's running. It'll be fine. You can use gear oil if you want. It's just a lot of mess to deal with. Okay, so the pinion obviously goes towards the inside of the case. You put that in. Feels really nice. Oops. There we go. Oh yeah, nothing wrong with that. Now here's the crush washer. Right out of the bag it had surface rust on it. Okay, I'm not going to call them out on that and, tell you on YouTube that this is the company that did that, but just look at your parts very carefully. Crush washer goes in there. And they also sent me in the kit, which was supposed to be for all years, the O-ring and the seal. Well, the seal was wrong. And so they were wrong about their listing. I'm still not going to call them out, because that's not how we roll, but that's the right seal for this year. And it's kind of an oddball year. I think it's 57 or 57 to 61, something like that. Okay, so we got the crush washer in there. And now we're going to set this to the side for a second. It's just going to stay there and be nice. We'll put a little red Timken on that one too. We're not going to just pack it all day like it's a wheel bearing going in a drum. It's just to get the preload going. And like I say, it's just to get the preload going. There's no big deal here. So that goes in there. And we're going to have to go press it now. Isn't that great? Then we'll put the oil slinger on. We might even put it on now and press it, I'm not sure. Yeah, it might damage it. Okay, so we're going to go press this with my special tool, and we'll get back to you. And it might just pop right on. Nope, that's a negative. Okay, alright. Here we go. This should make a weird sound, but not as bad as the first one, because it's further up the shaft. And there's also a casing around the whole thing that will reflect the sound a little bit, deflect it, make it different. So that's not as bad as the first bearing. We're really having some issues. Let's stop and make sure we're not galling the shaft. Oh, we're not even on the shaft yet. Oh, that's right. This one goes up a spline first, and then onto the surface. And my tool I made works. I mean, the tool I bought at the Ford dealership. Okay, that's against the crush washer. Okay, set that to the side. Get my special tool. Oh yeah, it's going to be fine once we get the crush washer on it. Yeah, it'll crush it in. Yeah, we could crush it in a little more. Wonder why it's so loose. Oh, because of the crush washer. Okay, there we go. Let's come over here. Save a little editing time here. Okay, sonny boy. So, let's put some grease on this spline too. What the heck, right? You know, some stuff's going on it pretty soon. Alright, so we're going to take this oil slinger. Make sure it's grit free. I probably should have bought a new one of these. It's a little worn. You can see where it's touching against the inner bearing. And we are going to put it right back on where it was touching that inner bearing. And this goes to the outside where it was touching the back side of the tail shaft. I mean the yoke. Alright, so wear marks in. Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay, so now we're going to put the seal in. I'm having some issues because this bolt's a little higher, this new one, and this bolt's a little shorter and had a big washer. I don't know if they're expecting you just to use this only, but I'm going to be safe and use this big washer and the new one. If it looks like it's not going to thread on, then I'll take that washer off. But at that point it might be too late. I don't know, use some Loctite. We'll find out. Anyway, we got to put the seal in, and then we got to put this yoke on that has the repair sleeve, and this is the correct seal. Oh, and of course there's a special tool number for this. But this time it's going to be block of wood and hammer, guys. I'm not machining stuff for hours. Okay. Alright, so I went down to the Ford dealership and borrowed their tool, which is tool number T38L4878A. Yeah, they said just bring it back later and we'll be good. They're nice guys down there. Okay, so we're gonna put some grease on this repair sleeve I put on here. I'm kind of hoping it all works out right. I'll put some on there. Yeah, it's grease, it's not oil. It'll filter in. We'll put a little on the seal area too. Okay, a little bit on the spline. That's good for you. Alright, so we're going to try to make sure this seal is nice and greased up. We don't want any issues. And we're going to put this on. And there we go. There's the washer that I was worried about, but it looks like it has to be there. And it looks like they give you plenty of thread on there. I was worried about this being kind of high, but the threads on this go all the way into that washer that's welded on it. And there's lots of good Loctite on there. So we're going to go with this new one. And we're just going to thread this on. Okay, that is basically it for today. I'm going to make this jig to hold this. The last time I tried to put one of these in the vise and do the preset, the pre-tensioning of the pinion bearing yokes and bearings, the preload, it broke the vise. So we're not going to do that today. We're going to make a little holder because I got a couple of these rear ends to do, different trucks. And we're going to make this holder. And yes, they do have a holder. And I'll give you the number so one of my viewers can just send it to me, right? Let's see, it's, well, they show it here in a minute. Oh yeah, here it is. It's E1050A. Yeah, so just, you know, hit the subscribe button and send me special tool number E105A and make my life a lot easier. I won't have to do welding and stuff. Anyway, once you get the preload set, it drops in here. Well, you get the preload set, you put this to the side, and then you work on the other parts. We'll get to that soon, but everything seemed to work out pretty well. It feels really good. And once I tighten it up, I can get the preload. Now, the bearings that came out of this really weren't that bad for 61 years old. But the rear end had been changed to the wrong ratio, and I don't know when the previous owners did that. It was a 310 rear end instead of being a 389 or 411. So that's why the truck would barely move in first gear. So I don't know when that emergency repair was made, but from what I can tell, the bearings that were in there were, good as the day they were made. So, but if we're getting it all apart, might as well put some new bearings in after all that work. Okay, so that's it for today, and tomorrow we'll build a special tool and we'll make it right.